You know that feeling when you're reading a book and you literally cannot tear your eyes away from the pages, or you're completely enraptured by the world and literally forget that you're a human on Earth? The books you can't get out of your mind, the characters you can't get out of your mind, the worlds that you wish you could live in. Those are the type of books we're going to be talking about today and moving forward on this channel. Welcome to the video and welcome to the new era of Kara's Bookshelf. Hello everyone, my name is Kara. If you are new here, hi, hello, welcome to the channel and welcome to the new era of Kara's Bookshelf. I am genuinely so excited to be here and I feel like I'm taking a deep breath. I feel like I just have a weight off my back right now. Before we get into my favorite books of all time, I just kind of want to address this new direction that I'm taking the channel. I have just felt for a very, very long time that I have been pulled away from my original goal of why I started BookTube. My entire reasoning for wanting to be on BookTube is to connect with people over very transformative reading experiences. The ones you're kicking your feet, you're screaming, you're crying, you're having some type of emotional reaction, you're feeling changed, you feel like you are understanding your world more, you feel like you have new insights to yourself. All of those truly emotionally impactful reading experiences, those are the type of books that I wanted to talk about on BookTube in the first place. And literally the reason why I started this channel is to connect with people who have those type of reading experiences, who desire to have those type of reading experiences. And I feel like I just really got distracted by a lot of what else was going on BookTube and what was most popular at the time and the algorithm, et cetera, all of that kind of stuff that I just felt completely stripped me away from why I started this channel in the first place. I got really insecure about my reading pace and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I feel like that's another conversation in itself. I've done a lot of self-reflection, a lot of journaling, and really sat with myself as to what I wanted for this channel going forward. And I just felt like I was not really being true to who I was and why I came here in the first place. So going forward, my goal is to really focus on that type of reading, on the type of reading that just makes you feel like your soul is getting spoken to. You are genuinely having a transformative experience because of reading. I want to share tips on how to find books like that. I want to share those books with you that I'm reading. I want to help you find books that can transform your life and your journey in this world. And that's really what I want to lean into from here. So I thought, what better way to kick off this new era than to talk about my favorite books of all time with you, the ones that left me kicking and screaming, the ones I couldn't stop reading, I read late into the night, the ones that the characters have never left my brain. So I have a total of about 10 to 14 books here. I've kind of grouped a few in a few different categories a little bit, but I do have a couple honorable mentions that I'm going to start off with, okay? I literally wouldn't be here in the first place if it wasn't for these books, and that is Harry Potter and Twilight, okay? I don't feel like I have to do any explanation towards these. These are my original copies. I gotta give it to Harry Potter. If it literally, I know the author of this book is just not even, I don't even want to say her name, because problematic, but this book series, I would genuinely not be a reader if it was not for the Harry Potter series. And I know that there's so many people who have also had these same experiences. Same with Twilight. I mean, I feel like this book saw me where I was as a teenager. It helped me realize my love of fantasy, my love of fantasy romance, my love of just reading in general and how I could get so swept up in a book. I could not put these books down to save my life, and they really have transformed me into the reader that I am today. And I literally would not be here without them. So I just had to give a quick little shout out to these two. All right, so in the number 10 spot, I actually have two books. There's I decided I was gonna do the 10 top books that I've changed my life, but I've kind of smashed a couple more into there to just be in the same categories, okay? These two are two nonfiction books that have changed my life. Nonfiction is a genre that I actually really enjoy reading. I feel like there's a lot of profound insights that we can gain from nonfiction literature, and these two have genuinely changed the way that I think about the world, okay? The first one is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a psychologist or psychiatrist during the time of Nazi Germany, and he was taken to Auschwitz. And this book is entirely about his experience in Auschwitz and how he was able to search for meaning in the setting of such mass destruction and complete inhumane living conditions. I feel like this book is really for someone who is looking for purpose in life, who is looking for meaning in life, because although those experiences that Viktor Frankl had were some of the most traumatic experience a human could literally ever have in this life, but the insights that he came away with from that extremely traumatic setting are some that resonate with every single person on this earth. I will literally never forget the meaning of this book and what this book taught me. I feel like I've had many a time in my life where I haven't felt like I've had direction, or I've just kind of felt like a meaningless existence at some points. And he really provides insight into just the purpose of the human experience. Completely would recommend if you're feeling kind of lost in life right now, and it's outstanding. It is outstanding. The second book that has completely changed my life, like actually physically changed my behavior, changed who I am as a person, is Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker. I feel like I've talked about this book ad nauseum over the last year. This book changed the way that I think about alcohol. I was a social drinker. In college, in young adulthood, I would drink socially with my friends. And over the last 2 years, I've really had a sober curious mindset. I did Dry January last year, and I was like, maybe I should read a book to go along with it, and found this one. Little did I know it would completely change my life. This book is all about how alcohol is marketed to us, about how alcohol is such a prevalent prop and social status symbol in our society, how it's traversed every single facet of our being as humans. It's marketed to us like there's nothing wrong with it. However, alcohol is really truly damaging to our bodies in so many ways. And Holly Whitaker is a woman who had an addiction to alcohol, and she overcame that. And this book talks all about her experience overcoming addiction, her experience with alcohol, how alcohol is marketed to us. If you are just interested in learning how alcohol has such an effect on our culture, what it does to us, if you have any type of interest in learning about how alcohol affects our bodies, or if you have ever questioned your relationship with alcohol, I think this book would be incredible for you. It legitimately changed my life, and I have everything to thank for it. I am so happy I read this. I literally went into it with just like maybe I'll learn something here. And little did I know I would come away with a very serious, sober, curious mindset and on a journey to, I don't even know about complete sobriety, but like I am just really loving my life without having such a presence of alcohol in it all the time. So would recommend. All right, next book on the list is one that I read over the past year, and I've literally never been able to stop thinking about it. I feel like this book has actually changed my reading taste for the better, and that is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This was the second best book that I read last year, and it was so life-changing, honestly. I loved this book so much. Now, to be honest, this book is very, very difficult to explain. All you really gotta know is that it's a fantasy romance. It is an epic fantasy romance where there is a huge epic fantasy world. And then there's also dragons. The magic system in this world is akin to like earthly magic, where people can speak to and move with various elements of the planet, such as like earth, wind, water, rock, all that kind of stuff. And our main character obviously has some of those powers. The gist of this book is really this drawn out tension, enemies to lovers romance between Khan and Rave. It is so good. And I think why this book was so life-changing to me is because I discovered the genre of epic fantasy romance. Before I read this book, I honestly was losing hope that I enjoyed fantasy romance. I felt like I would try fantasy romances, not really feel an attachment to the characters, not really feel an attachment to the world, and not really know why I was reading the book. Again, going back to books that we really want to read that feel like they are 4 and 5 stars changing our life. I didn't feel like I was getting those. Then I read this book and I was like, this genre was made for me. Okay. Sarah A. Parker just like knew. She knew this was what I was looking for. The reason that I loved this book so much is because the epic fantasy nature of this book is so prevalent. The book focuses so much more on the epic fantasy plot line rather than the romance. Like, yes, we obviously have a romance, but I personally am someone who needs to really get character backstory, really get good world building and good plot setup in order for me to enjoy a romance. If I am just getting a romance about two random people that I have no context for, I don't care about it at all. This was what I needed. I love epic fantasy in the sense that it is really escapist and dreamlike and just really can take me away and like pull me into a different world. And I love romance on top of it. Like, I just love a good romance movie, a good rom-com, anything like that. And I just felt like this book combined those things perfectly for me, and the dragons. It just honestly changed my perspective on reading. If you are someone who has liked Fourth Wing, or you have liked ACOTAR, or any of the more like really popular fantasy romances, but you're kind of wanting to take that next step, or maybe you're looking to bridge into epic fantasy, this would be such a good book to try out. I feel like epic fantasy, I feel like it's a very, very intimidating genre to get into because the books are like 1,000 pages long. I feel like this book perfectly blends fantasy romance literature and epic fantasy. And I feel like if you're looking, maybe you're like, hey, I want to try out Brandon Sanderson or something, but you really like Fourth Wing or you really like ACOTAR, like give this a try. I feel like this is a great step up. That's not completely spilling you into a 1,300 page epic fantasy, but it is still bringing you all the elements that you love from, the books that you've read before and enjoyed before, like Fourth Wing or ACOTAR or something like that. Incredible. All right, book number 8. And I feel like me showing you this book is really gonna like not be helpful at all because I don't have a dust jacket on it and it's ripped. This is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book. This is one of the books that got me back into reading as an adult, and I will forever be grateful for it, okay? I did loan this to my mom and her dog accidentally chewed it up, and I'm so mad about it because I annotated this copy. I don't even want to talk about it, okay? If you are hiding under a rock and don't know what Daisy Jones and the Six is, essentially it's about a fictional band in the 1970s and the relationship dynamics between that band, the music that was created, and kind of the band's storyline. Oh my gosh, this book is just genuinely one of the books that I will forever be thankful for. I love the way the relationship dynamics played out in this book so much. The setting is so much fun. Like the music of the 1970s, just that feeling of nostalgia. And like, I've always been interested in kind of like nostalgic celebrity culture back in like the 80s and 70s, etc. And Taylor Jenkins Reid always delivers with that kind of historical fiction. Her Malibu Rising is also amazing too. The characters of this book are phenomenal. The way that this book is written is so unique. It's kind of like a podcast style or an interview style. I just feel like if you are someone who loves music, who loves messy relationship dynamics, who loves a good audiobook, because this audiobook is incredible. It's a full cast. It's amazing. And you just are really interested in kind of like celebrity culture or like older celebrity culture, stuff like that. Like this book would be outstanding for you. Or Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I feel like these are very well loved and very, very well respected books on BookTube. And I just completely agree. I have loved it ever since I read it. The next favorite book of all time is Babel by R.F. Kuang. Oh, this book. This book is God tier, top tier, outstanding, unbelievable, one of the best books I've ever read of all time, impacted me to my core. It is outstanding. Again, I am sure you've heard of this if you have been alive on BookTube at all over the last few years. In brief, this is about our main character, Robin Swift, who is a young Cantonese boy who gets taken from his home at a very young age and is enrolled into the Royal Institute of Translation, or Babel, which is at Oxford University. This book has everything in it. If you are someone who's an intellectual, if you love dark academias, if you love books set at schools or universities, if you love just learning when you're reading fiction books, this book has a lot about the origin of linguistics, the origin of words, and the English language. You learn so much in this book, okay? There's also like magical type stuff that happens at this institution that's so cool. But on top of all of that, R.F. Kuang brings in such a layered conversation about colonialism, about like the whitewashing of universities, the inequalities and and discrimination that happens in academic institutions and very large white-centric institutions bulldozing marginalized communities. Colonialism is like the biggest topic in here. The reason I love this book so much is because I feel like it's actually very prevalent to a lot of the things that we are experiencing today, okay? I feel like R.F. Kuang had a very heavy hand in talking about imperialism and colonialism and kind of like the whitewashing of the world and all of that kind of stuff. But I really, really loved how she did it. I feel like sometimes books can try and be an allegory to our world and whatnot, but I almost feel like sometimes that gets lost on people. I don't feel like it's lost in this book at all, okay? It's very, very obvious what the message that R.F. Kuang is trying to say is, and I just really appreciate how she really delivers that message in such a strong way while also creating such an interesting story, such an interesting plot, incredible characters, incredible setting, incredible magic system, learning so much about language, the origins of language, all that kind of stuff. She just did one with this book. Okay, this is an incredible, incredible book. I feel like this is like her magnum opus right now. I cannot wait for Catabasis. I don't even know what that's going to be about, but like I just have a feeling that's going to be incredible. I will forever be affected by this book. I've recommended this book to so many people. I think this was my best book of the year in 2022. I want to read it again. I'm sure it's actually applying now more than ever. And I'm just like, oh, cannot say enough good things about it, okay? This book is amazing. Please read it. All right, my next best book of all time is one that I also read last year, and that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my God, oh my God. Can I talk for a second? I mean, I have been talking this entire video. However, A Court of Silver Flames, this book rocked me to my core, okay? I don't feel like this book gets a bad rep. No, I do not. However, I think some people can quickly dismiss this book because of how much smut is in it. And yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. And I don't know if it necessarily had to be that heavy-handed. I, however, love this book, and it is in my top 5 books of all time because of the trauma representation in this book. I have never felt so seen by a character in a fantasy book, fantasy romance, fantasy anything. Like, I feel like I identify so much with Nesta in this book. Sarah J. Maas just really did the representation of an individual who has been through trauma so well. And the reason why I feel like I love this book so much is not only is it the trauma representation, but also this is the first Sarah J. Maas book that I'm like, yes, I finally understand why the girlies love her. I feel like I did not love ACOTAR. I feel like it took me a really long time to finally become a fervent fan of Sarah J. Maas, and it really wasn't until this book where I was like, I get it now. The journey that Nesta goes through as an individual, I feel like has been one that has also reflected in my own life as well. She is someone who has been through a lot of trauma from the war that happened and all that kind of stuff in ACOTAR. You watch her as she develops really healthy coping skills. Yes, she also slides back at times and then moves forward at times, and she just really goes on a journey to heal herself and goes on a journey with her friends and builds beautiful female friendships. I just feel like this book was so representative of an individual who has been through traumatic experiences and how to heal from that in a healthy way. Yes, it's all done in a fantasy romance world. Yes, there's smut. Yes, there's all that kind of stuff. But like, honestly, I just feel like I've never really connected to a character in a fantasy romance book like I connected to Nesta. I really, really feel like I see myself in her. And honestly, that's why I love the book so much in general, is because I feel so represented in her. I want to actually go back and reread ACOTAR just so I can read about her again. And I know she gets a bad rep where she's like grumpy and mean and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like it's very justified and it's very understandable. If you've ever been through a traumatic situation and have lived through something in trauma, it's very natural to have reactions where you're acting out or you're not, being the most nice, kind person in the world. Like, it's very, very normal and it happens to a lot of people. And I just really love how she represented women in that way. And I just feel like I can't even say good enough enough great things about this book, and I understand. Like, I get it. There's a lot of smut, but at the same time, there's a lot more to this book than that too. So, all right, number 4, I actually have 2 books kind of lumped together in number 4 because these 2 books both give me the same kind of message. Okay, the first one we have is the Heartstopper series. Oh my God, I feel like this book series is truly life-changing. And then the second one I have is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Okay, the reason I kind of lump these 2 together is because I feel like these books heal my inner child. Okay, honestly, I feel like we honestly live in such a toxic society where adults can't play, they can't express their emotions like we did as children, they can't enjoy or find the joy in life that kids do all the time. And I just feel like these 2 books really allowed me to bring that inner child out, to like heal that small little person inside me who is struggling to find her way, you know, as a kid and as a teenager. And both of these books did just that. If you are unaware, House in the Cerulean Sea is essentially like a middle grade for adults. It's about this grumpy old man who ends up visiting an orphanage filled with magical children, and you get taken on a journey with this man as he really becomes a lighthearted, loving individual who was once this like just old curmudgeon-y guy who hated life. The way that these kids see the world, the way that the caretaker sees the world, it's so beautiful. This book is so prevalent to our society right now. It really helps you find hope in the world. It really helps you find joy and just like really remember that there are happy, beautiful things about being alive and being human. And there is a really great sense of love and camaraderie amongst people, although we feel like we live in a world where you can never even see those things because the news headlines are terrible. I just feel like I've taken away so much from this book. I've reread this book. It's outstanding. It's incredible. And it really does just heal my inner child. I feel like middle grade for adults is so needed. So needed. And I feel like this book really has started that kind of genre. So absolutely love it. 100%. And then the other one is Heartstopper. I feel like, oh my gosh, you probably all know about Heartstopper, have read Heartstopper. Again, healed my inner child. Wish I had this book around when I was a teenager. This is about our main characters, Nick and Charlie. They are 2 teenage boys, you know, end up forming a relationship there in high school. And it's all about acceptance of who you are, you know, an LGBTQ experience as a teenager and a really whole, loving, supportive environment of friends, of family, and really working through difficult emotions and, you know, obstacles you have as a teenager, whether it's friends you have at high school, going off to college, you know, learning to love yourself. I wish I had this book when I was a teenager to really understand the things that I was going through in a more accepting kind of way. I feel like you've probably read this series if you're watching this channel, and if you haven't, get on it right now, okay? Okay, number 3. My top 3 favorite books of all time. And genuinely, these are like, this is not even a question of my favorite books of all time. I feel like these next 3 books like define me as a reader. Like, these are it. This is totally not a surprise to anyone. Is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Could cry thinking about it. Literally gonna get emotional. I have never felt so seen by an author in my entire life. This slot in general just goes to Sally Rooney. Okay, it's not even just Normal People, but however, Normal People is the book that really made me convert to being a Sally Rooney fan. But any of her books, honestly. Sally Rooney has actually changed the core of my being, okay? She understands the millennial experience deeply. She knows the ins and outs of people of our generation. And I feel like she is truly the author that represents this generation of people. Normal People, brief explanation. You're following Marianne and Connell as they are teenagers growing up into adulthood. They get together, they break up, they date other people, they just go through the normal life cycles that young adults do while having a very messy, complicated relationship with one another. There is so much about this book. Depression and mental health representation in both young men, which is extremely untalked about, and in women, and the way that we end up miscommunicating with one another, the way that we could avoid a lot of pain if we just talk to each other about our emotions. And Sally Rooney just really encapsulates what young adults go through nowadays, the struggles that they face, housing insecurities, communication issues, addiction, addictions, depression, mental health issues. She just can say it in a way that I resonate with so deeply. If you are a young adult, if you're a millennial, you're in your late 20s or 30s, and you are just looking for someone who understands what millennials and our generation is going through right now, I would really give Sally Rooney a try. Her writing is just genuinely so stripped back and raw, and I just very much feel that she takes a deep look inside to our experiences and is able to write them in such an outstanding way. And I will be forever affected by these characters. I think the TV adaptation is one of the best book to TV adaptations I've ever seen. It is outstanding. I just love this book with my whole heart and soul, and anything that Sally Rooney writes, I will read. I will literally be the last Sally Rooney fan standing. I love her to the day that I die. Like, bury me with every single one of her books, truly. Number 2 is one that you're literally not going to be surprised about if you have watched my channel at all in the last couple months, and that is the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I know. Okay, I know I've talked about Brandon Sanderson ad nauseum. I will never stop talking about Brandon Sanderson. I will never stop talking about the Stormlight Archive. When I read this book for the first time, I had an actual life-changing experience. Like, I realized, like, hey, I love epic fantasy. There's this entire genre of books out there that is a metaphor to the world that I can escape into, that I can learn things from, that I can grow as a human from. And it all started with this book. Like, this was the book that made me realize that I am a true fantasy fan, that this is one of my favorite genres of all time. The political intrigue in this book is outstanding. The emotional arcs that the characters go through, the way that there's so much mental health representation, there's discussion about oppression and discrimination and, real world issues that we face every day. And you can process those really deep topics in a way that doesn't feel daunting to you. Like, yes, a 1,300 page book may be daunting, but at the same time, when I get to find incredible, rich stories that discuss real world issues, and I get to read about it in a really fun way, where there's political intrigue, where there's, fantasy stuff, where people have magical powers, it just makes the reading experience so much fun. And I love this book. This is basically a book about an epic war between humanoid type creatures and humans on this planet called Roshar. And then on top of all that, this book brings together various series of Brandon Sanderson. It's so much fun. And the way that epic fantasy can be such a metaphor to our world, it's beautiful. I just will forever love Brandon Sanderson, will forever love epic fantasy. I will never shut up about Brandon Sanderson. I'm sorry, you have to hear me talk about him all the time, okay? Oh my gosh, we finally made it. My favorite, most life-changing, I don't even know if this is my favorite, but it's the most life-changing book I've ever read, ever in my entire life. I will never, ever forget this reading experience. If you've watched my channel for a while, you probably know what it is, but if you don't, it's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Oh my God, I feel like I never talk about this book because I feel like I can't talk about it because it's actually not a good book to recommend to anyone, ever. It is extremely triggering, it is extremely traumatic. The things that these characters go through in this book is honestly, I don't even have a word. It's so traumatizing. However, the characters that were built in this book have stuck with me ever since the day I read it. I read this book probably back in 2020, and I don't think I've ever gone a week without thinking about these characters. I kid you not. The way that Hanya Yanagihara formed such intense, real characters in my brain. I feel like these people were real. I have never, ever read a book ever since I've read this book that has made me feel that deeply for characters before in my life. And I really don't want to feel like I am promoting this book in a way, because honestly, please look up the trigger warnings. It is not a book for everyone. It is an extremely triggering book. In brief, this is a book about 4 best friends and about our main character, Jude, who has been through unbelievably traumatic experiences in his life that are indescribable. Literally, it's terrible what that character goes through. But I think the reason why I felt like it was so life-changing is because you see the cycle of trauma in this book, and feel like I'm just like baring my soul to you in this video. Yes, I have been through trauma, but I feel like people who have been through traumatic experiences, it's really hard to process those experiences sometimes. And although this character is not able to process a lot of the stuff that he goes through, the friendships that are formed in this, the relationships that are formed in this are just so deep to me. They're so real to me. You know what I mean? I can't even articulate how much this book means to me. But again, please do not read this if you do not think that this is a book for you. It really is not a book for everyone, but like it actually changed my life. And that's, I feel like, all I have to say about this book. All right, everyone. So those are my favorite books of all time. I have really, really enjoyed talking to you about these books. I literally feel like I exit my body when I am talking about books that just speak to my soul, that make me feel so incredibly seen. And I am just so, so happy to be entering this new era where I'm going to be talking about these books so much more. So it just feels like an honest like a big sigh of relief. If you are interested in other books that I have rated 5 stars or ones that I felt like have really spoke to my soul, I'm going to leave a tier ranking video right here where you should go and check it out. I rank all of the 5 stars that I've ever rated in my entire life in that video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave some of the favorite books that you have ever read down in the comments below, and I cannot wait to go on this journey with you in this new era of Kara's Bookshelf. I will see you guys in my next video. Love you! Bye!